Hi there, I'm Rodney from This Must Be Talking Heads, back with a bit of news around the Talking Heads world. There's been reports in the mainstream press about a new tape that's been found, which is reportedly the earliest recorded versions of any songs by the sort of early version of Talking Heads, which was called the Artistics. These tapes that have surfaced are probably the earliest known versions of songs like Psycho Killer, but it's obviously very exciting to think that there's old versions of tapes that are still being found and that there might be a few treasures on there. So the first question is, what is this tape that has been found and where has it come from? I'll read from the news reports. You can have a look at this pretty picture of this tape while I read the story for you. This from the Boston Globe. The Talking Heads early demo of Psycho Killer surfaces at RISD. That's the Rhode Island School of Design. Decades after Talking Heads established themselves as among rock's foremost innovators, the original Artistics demo tape, one of the oldest recordings of Psycho Killer, has at long last surfaced again at the Rhode Island School of Design. This is quoting Chris Frantz. I sent Byrne a copy and he said, "Wow! Both of us, David and I, are very happy that this tape exists and that we were able to find it after all these years." A curator stumbled on it while cleaning out her desk before she retired, Nishimura said. So it's been sitting in someone's desk for decades and they'd never looked at it before. Nishimura reached out to Chris Frantz, who then had it digitized and mastered. So just to have a bit of a look at the tape, obviously you've had a look at the actual original box that it was in. There's this typed note in here and it says, first song begins at approximately 23 units. So that's, if you're putting this tape through a player, the counter would spin and that's how far forward you have to go. The songs are called Psycho Killer, Warnin sign. So warning sign, but with an apostrophe instead of a G. And then Spin Spin, which I'll get to in a sec. It says it's recorded at 7.5, I think that's inches per second, on a stereo machine, on a mono machine. This tape can only be heard backwards. In case you don't know, Chris and David met at the Rhode Island School of Design in about 1972. Chris and David worked on a couple of little things, but then eventually decided, let's have a crack at starting a band. That band was called the Artistics. The Artistics included a few other people that I'll get to in just a second, but Chris played drums. David played guitar and sang. The Artistics played covers as well as a few originals. Those originals are Psycho Killer and Warning Sign. So first up, From Remain in Love by Chris Frantz. This is what he had to say about the Artistics and what they were up to at that time. So Chris writes, David Anderson, a young friend of my family's from Kentucky, had recently come to RISD. I knew he was a good guitarist, so I asked him if he would be interested in joining our band. He agreed to do so. Then I asked another friend, Hank Starler, who played bass, to join us. Hank was up for it, so now we had the possibility of a 4-piece rock band. A couple of times a week, we would gather at Hank's apartment on Benefit Street to learn and rehearse cover songs. One day, David came to the painting studio that Tina and I shared in a building called Car House on the corner of Benefit and Waterman Streets. Tina and I were in our final year at RISD and making paintings for our senior show exhibition. When David came to us that wintry afternoon, he said he had been writing a song, which he hoped we could help him with. He was writing it in the style like Alice Cooper, which was hugely popular at the time. But so far, he'd just written one verse. It says here that David wanted the foreign language part to be in Japanese, but his friend or girlfriend who spoke Japanese didn't really get what he was trying to do. And Chris suggested, hey, Tina speaks French. Why don't you get her to write something in French? So she does. And then they write all of Psycho Killer. Then he says, the next song written during this early period was called Warning Sign. The song was built around the drum beat I was playing in rehearsal one day. In retrospect, I realized the beat owes a lot to the one Ringo Starr created in Tomorrow Never Knows. I wrote the lyrics, all of them, while lying on my stomach next to the rabbit on the floor of Hank Starler's apartment. And then it goes into the lyrics. And then he says it became a Talking Heads song later on. Since we were all art students and making art was our thing, we decided to call ourselves the Artistics. So for some balance, here's what David said about all that. In 1973, my friend Chris Frantz, who was about to graduate from the painting department of the Rhode Island School of Design, suggested that we put together a band. We did, and he proposed we call ourselves the Artistics. I began to write original material around this time, now that I had a band that I hoped would be willing to perform my compositions. The song Psycho Killer began in my room as an acoustic ballad, and I asked Chris and his girlfriend Tina for help on it. For some reason, I wanted the middle 8 section to be in French, and Tina's mum was French, so she had some skills there. Warning Sign was another song written then. I remember the live version being painfully loud. That was another thing about the Artistics, is reportedly, even though they were playing covers, that they would play so loud that people couldn't stand near the stage. They had to stand back. So there you have it, Chris and David confirming that Psycho Killer and Warning Sign were their 2 early songs. So just to refresh our memory of what Talking Heads sounded like once they became Talking Heads, this is 1975. Let's have a tiny little taste of Psycho Killer. Because just imagine in your mind what Psycho Killer sounds like. We've all heard it 1,000 times. But here's what it originally sounded like, and here's what it probably sounds like on that tape.
to say, fa, 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 better.
And here's a tiny little taste of what warning sign sounded like back then as well.
Warning sign, warning sign. I hear it, but I pay it no mind. Hear my voice, hear my voice. It's saying something. It's not very nice.
So there you go. In all of its mid-70s charm, proto-Talking Heads coming into form. Now, that's covers Psycho Killer and Warning Sign, or Warnin Sign, but there is still the song Spin Spin, which we have to conjecture about. It would be, I think, about 12 years since the last time someone dug up a tape with an unheard Talking Heads jam, and then in that case, that was Theme, which was they just played live. Theme was a bit of an instrumental, almost like the theme from a movie or something, or theme from a scene in a short film. Could it be a new song? Could it be a song that nobody's ever heard of before? A lost Talking Heads / the Artistics gem? I have to wonder, and I don't want to get too excited in case that is the case, but maybe it's something we already know about. If so, what could it be? Was it a working title for a song that we already know? And there were those songs from Sand on the Vaseline, including songs like I Want to Live. So some of the lines from I Want to Live include things like deeper feelings recur again and again. A complex spiral leads me to spin. So maybe Spin Spin is just an early title for I Want to Live. Who knows? But I guess we'll find out. Now, there were a lot of whispers that this tape would be coming out. It's also confirmed in that Boston Globe article that it's going to be released by Rhino Records for Record Store Day on Black Friday edition, which is later in the year. And it also hints that there's going to be demos. So maybe we're going to get those 1975 demos for the Talking Heads. Maybe we're going to get some more early live tracks. I would love to see if they include a live show, maybe that show from the kitchen where it's just the three of them playing and Chris plays like vibraphone on First Week, Last Week, Carefree. That would be a cool one, a little package that includes those early demos, the other early demos that we've got, the first sort of Talking Head demo set from 75, and then a live show from the kitchen. That would be an amazing package to pull together. But I want to know, what would you want to see in an early pre-77 era Talking Heads package? What stuff would you want to know about? So there's been lots of news lately. There's going to keep being lots more. So stay subscribed and make sure you stay in touch with everything that's going on. I'm going to try and cover all of the news and keep you up to date with everything that's fit to print, as well as keep doing all the reviews and everything. And the podcast will keep continuing. So stay subscribed there too. But until next time, I've been Rod, and I'll talk to you later.